All right, and here we go. Welcome to the Casuals MMA podcast, part of the FanStream Sports network of podcasts. You can find our podcast online at fanstreamsports.com. We're led by the JP Peterson Show. He airs live from 3 to 6 p.m. on 98.3 FM and 8:20 a.m. up there in the Tampa area. And we have a bunch of other great podcasts on the network. Sports Caffeine, Set the Sails, The Blitz Breakdown, Locked On Rays, and On the Clock. We cover all your sports, all right, especially for Tampa sports, because that's where most of those guys are based out of. But thank you for joining us. We're happy to have everybody back. We skipped a week last week. It was a little bit of a slow news week, but we're back. We're live. We got tons of stuff to cover. The bantamweight picture for the UFC looks crazy now. We're talking about a GOAT having his final match. And the UFC has something coming that's big, spending a lot of money. So first and foremost, Sean, welcome. How you doing?
Doing good. You know, just like you said, it was a slow week last week, but as a slow week comes, a full week follows that, it seems like, because we just had an event. It was a good one. Lots of other news outside of that, and a fight card coming up this weekend. So plenty to talk about.
Yeah, the UFC does seem to do that. You know, like I remember they always said that was the advantage of with the NFL is that they were so good at keeping the news headlines rolling year round, even out of season. The UFC, I mean, granted, they don't have seasons, but they keep the news rolling. And anytime, to your point, like it seems like we have 1 week where the news goes stagnant. We don't really hear much. Boom, turns around, and we just have a week like this where it just seems like the news won't stop coming.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before. Is the UFC the last few years have done a really good job of just like 11 weeks straight of fight cards, and they'll put on a bunch of good shows, and then they'll go quiet for a little bit, kind of make you forget about them. Like, man, what are they doing? And then bam, they'll come right back heavy right out of that.
Yeah, and the good news is too, which I like. This is a great strategy. I think the UFC is smart. They always seem to work around the NFL and college football seasons.
Yeah, they know what they are. They know they're not going to get the attention of college football fans or football fans, even basketball with playoffs going on. You're not going to overtake them on a consistent basis. So, they always seem to work around. It's just like, they used to do big cards this day before the Super Bowl, but I think they kind of got away from that because they realized that's a lot of money for people to spend because they're already going to spend so much on the Super Bowl itself. So,
yeah. Well, and to that point too, you figure like with college football starting up, at least for some of the divisions, starting up next month, we have free cards for the UFC every single weekend, all the way, I think, until late September, which is the Adesanya and Costa fight. But it's all free events. So, go get your college football fix is essentially what they're saying. And then tune into us and watch us at night.
Most of their big fights are, like you said, revolved around football season. They always have a big card in March, a big card in the summer, and like a big card to start the fall right before, like in August, like right before the football season start. And then they have them in December. And that's usually colleges out with, that's like the beginning of bowl games. So
yeah,
not the greatest bowl games going on then.
No, not until right around New Year's is when they, or at least the week of or something like that. So, but either way, we got a ton of great news to cover today. So let's kind of get into it real quick. Let me just pull up our list. Yes. So actually first, let's talk about this past weekend. We have a veteran of the sport, the former lightweight champion, former title contender at featherweight, now looking to make his final run for a title at bantamweight. Frankie Edgar showed up, man. He shows that he just will not go quietly into the night.
One of 4 or one of 5 guys now to win a fight in 3 different weight classes.
I haven't seen that stat, but I'm sure
like, him, Diego Sanchez, Conor McGregor. I'm trying to think of the other guys who, maybe Cowboy. No, Cowboy I don't think is fought in 3. There's a few of them though.
There's only got to be a few. I mean,
yeah.
And it's incredible to think because he looks natural at 135. Like that looks like it fits.
Yeah, I saw a picture of him at 155. When he was younger, he looked bulky. Like he definitely looked like inflated for that division, which is weird to say for a lightweight because you don't see that.
Well, I mean, he's only like 5'6". I mean, if you look at a lot of the fighters right now, you got a lot taller guys, 5'10" to 6 foot tall even at featherweight. So you figure he's 5'6", and when he was the lightweight champ, he would probably not cut much weight when he walked in there.
I think he had to put on weight to fight then.
Yeah. But bantamweight seems to fit him. So, I mean, it's incredible to think that, he's in his late 30s right now, and he's just now getting to the division that probably fits him best. And he's already been champ, he's just chasing that. I think he's chasing that title to capture it one more time and then retire on top.
Yeah.
So, but his win over Pedro Munoz this past weekend shot him right into that top 5 spot of the bantamweight division. That bantamweight division's insane right now.
We got a couple of those guys up there coming off of losses, so that helps.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, they're just now talking about getting Piotr Jan versus Aljamain Sterling in the books. They haven't. It blows me away that they haven't got that down on paper and got that signed.
Yeah, who knows? You never know what's going on in contract negotiations, and maybe somebody's got like an injury or something that they just need a little bit more time. Or they just can't get the right date for whatever reason, or they're trying to figure out, do we want this to be a headline? Do we want this to be a co-headliner?
Yeah,
kind of maybe they're looking to see where other pieces fall.
Yeah, well, they made it a little bit easier Cody made it a little bit easier by going down and challenging for the 125.
That shouldn't have even been a discussion in the first place.
No, that's wild that he went down there. I don't think that's going to be a good look for him.
Yeah, I mean, even for a guy with no chin, I mean, you're going to cut more weight.
Yeah. TJ showed what's up when you cut too much weight. It's too much. It's too much. But you know what? To each their own. Let him go learn the hard way, and then he'll probably bounce back. I mean, because he's big for the 135 division. I think he's like 5'8", but he looks built. He looks a lot bigger than most of those guys. So to think he's going to cut another 10 pounds is insane to me. But but either way, Frankie Edgar showed out. He looked really good against a game Pedro Munoz. I think the one thing was I thought that came out of that fight was he was showing his age a little bit, because he was losing a little bit of that steam going into the final part of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, which is usually where you see Frankie Edgar historically pick it up. He's a long-term guy. He's very durable, but it looked like Pedro was picking it up there in the 4th and 5th rounds, made it super, super close.
Frankie's been through some wars, man. I mean, and he's not young. He's not a young guy. So, I'm sure it's starting to wear on him. Father Time, undefeated.
That's for sure. So maybe he can make this. Maybe he can make this one last run. I mean, it's hard to look at the people in front of him and see, like, maybe he could fight a Corey Sandhagen next. That would make sense for him, and then that could be considered his contender fight, and then he'd fight the winner of Piotr Jan versus Aljamain Sterling, assuming that both those fights could happen. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe that's his calling card. That's what he's looking for, but there's a short list in front of him. I think the UFC put him in at number 5 in the rankings for bantamweight almost right away in his bantamweight debut.
Well, I mean, he's challenged for the title many times before. He's been the champion at lightweight. I mean, that's the benefit, man. That you get one fight in the division, you win it, and you're top 5. Yeah,
and he's so deserving. I mean, the only people he's really lost to are champions or ex-champions for the most part.
I think Ortega's the only guy who's really beaten him that wasn't a champion.
And Chan Sung Jung, I think, beat him recently. I think that was his last fight at featherweight, I want to say. But I mean, both those guys are potential future featherweight champs. Yeah. So,
those guys are fucking nothing to play with, man.
No, for sure. But anyways, moving on. Speaking of changing weights, John Jones is making it official. I think we announced this before, but still, he's relinquished his light heavyweight title. He's going up to heavyweight. I was like, there's no way he's going to get that shot in front of Francis. Dana White came out, and luckily he didn't tease us too bad. Well, he said Francis is definitely deserving of the next shot. Stipe said, yes, Francis deserves it first. But John Jones does get an immediate title shot.
I saw today that Stipe said, I've already done that, and I gave him a 25-minute ass whooping. Why would I do that again?
That would go back on.
Because Ngannou said, oh, so this is how you're going to get out of fighting me again?
I'm surprised, because I was reading what Stipe was saying, that he was very deserving of it.
Today, I just saw that today. The ESPN headline. So maybe this is Stipe's way of looking at it like, well, maybe John's the bigger money fight. And he's not going to take years off my life, hopefully. Maybe my knees, but not my head.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd be surprised. I'd hope that Stipe fights. Ideally, I'd like to see him fight Francis first, and then assuming he wins that one, fight John.
100% deserving. I mean, Chael Sonnen said it the best. It would be irresponsible to put anybody that's not a championship caliber fighter in the ring with Francis Ngannou at this point.
No. I mean, who's the other like legit threat? Is maybe Curtis Blades, and he already beat him.
Smoked them twice.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's probably the only other legit fighter that you can see, taking over that heavyweight division eventually, because he's young still. But even him, he smoked him twice. He's done. Like, he's already had. There's no reason for him to fight him anymore. This is what I think is going to happen, though. You got plenty of time. Stipe's still healthy. Francis is healthy. Schedule these guys for one of the end of the year cards. They can headline this bad boy. Give John Jones, who's been very open about like needing that time to build up his body to make that transition to heavyweight. Give him that time, build his body, get strong, and let him fight the winner of that match.
Or here's an idea: cage match.
Cage match between John and Francis.
All three of them.
A one versus all, showdown,
a free for all.
That would be madness. Have you ever seen? There are videos of that where there's like
no, that's not a good idea. I was just kidding.
There's like 10 people teams and all this stuff.
Yeah.
There's even some where they have weapons. I don't know. It's wild.
Russia's a crazy place, man.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's a different world.
But I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to let Francis and Stipe work it out. They're going to fight next, and then give John some time to develop his
John's
body.
Not really a guy who thrives on staying active. So I mean, he could always take time and come back and be fine.
Yeah, for sure. So we're looking forward to that. It completely opens up the light heavyweight division. Now we have Jan versus two very deserving fighters.
Somewhat interesting.
Yeah, this is the issue when you have a very dominant fighter is it makes the division look weak. When Anderson Silva was running the middleweight division for all those years, everybody was like, well, the middleweight division is the weakest division that we have. Well, not necessarily. It's just that the guy on top has already whooped everybody and can clearly dominate everybody.
Ever since, he got dethroned, it's been a very interesting division, and now it's really interesting.
Exactly. You have a great middleweight division with a ton of contenders.
When we first started watching MMA, the light heavyweight division was the premier division. It wasn't even close. That's where all the legends were.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then John Jones cleared them out, and it has not recovered since.
No, but I think it will right now with the opening.
They need some younger guys, though.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what Dom Reyes plugs in as.
He does. And Ranchik, I think, is that how you say his name? He's fighting this weekend.
Rakic. Yeah, Rakic.
Rakic, yeah.
Yep.
He could be, but you never know. These guys, they gotta show up, though.
Yeah. And the other one, too, that's sitting there quietly is Glover Teixeira and Thiago Silva are fighting. If you remember, Thiago Silva's coming off of double knee surgery because he blew out both of his knees fighting John in a fight. Thiago Santos. After he had a great fight against John Jones, that was very close considering the fact that he had blown out both his knees and made it 5 rounds. I mean, that's just incredible. So now this opens up the light heavyweight division. I feel like there's a ton of competition there, unless Dom Reyes just absolutely dominates from here on out.
We'll see if maybe his fight against John Jones was just his best performance. We'll see if he can keep it going. I mean, we saw with Gus. Gus took John those 5 rounds. We thought he won that fight too, and he just never really seemed to recover from that.
Yeah. So we'll see. The difference though is I think Dom is he's a little bit younger though, so he's got a little bit more fire in him. So we'll see.
That happened.
Yeah, he was, but he also took some hard L's, like Anthony Johnson. Absolutely,
that was after though.
Rolled over him. That was after that first fight, but but that was before the second one.
Yeah, well, I was talking about the first one. I'm saying his career just never, like, you never thought he never really reached what you thought he could have been.
No, I'm just saying that he had some other hard fights though that made that second one so much less competitive.
Hey, Jan could give Dom a hard fight. You never know, man. These light heavyweights, they're just interchangeable for the most part. They have been. Yeah,
for sure. So ton of opportunity. And to your point, I think this weekend, I was going to bring this up later, but since you already brought it up with Rakic in here fighting Al Smith. This is going to be interesting. This is kind of like where is Alex Smith going to go from here after he just got mauled by Glover Teixeira? And Rakic, I think, is coming off his first UFC loss. His first loss in general. I think he's 12-1 against Vulcan, which isn't a bad loss, but at the same time, we'll see. So it's going to be kind of where are they at? Where are these guys at the light heavyweight division? So this weekend should be interesting the way it shakes out. But we definitely have some good contender fights coming up at the light heavyweight division.
For sure.
So other big news. So it looked earlier this year like Amanda Nunes was going to retire. She was not going to fight again. And lo and behold, here it is. She's going to fight Megan Anderson looking at the end of the year.
I think this is it for her. I mean, even after her last fight, we said what's really left for her. I guess I can kind of see the Megan fight because Megan was supposed to be the girl to take down Cyborg. She's never lived up to that, never come close.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I guess they're just going to give her one shot and see, do they have anything for 145? If not, they can cut Megan, get rid of the division, just cut their ties with it and move on.
Yeah. This is the end of the 145 division. If Amanda wins this fight, which I would assume she does, she's a faster, stronger fighter. She's much more versatile. She has more tools. If she wins this one, I think that this is going to be it for the 140. Because let's be honest, the 145 division for the women has been a joke, and it's not because of a lack of talent. It's because of a lack of people in there. Amanda Nunes is a legit 135er that went up to 145 because they ran out of people for Cyborg to fight.
After like 2 fights.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, they were getting 135ers to fight Cyborg is what it was.
100%. That's exactly what it is they were asking girls to come up from the 135 division because they couldn't plug bodies in there. Megan Anderson was the only other legit 145er out there, and she just came in and she just, she hasn't lived up to the expectation. Nope. So Megan Anderson's going to get her shot just by default, just because there's nobody else at this point, which stinks to say for her, but that's the case. I mean, it was the same with Felicia Spencer in her last fight too. I mean,
Felicia was coming off, she was coming off a big win, I'm pretty sure. And she went hard with Cyborg. I mean, she at least competed in that fight. So you can see how they would give it to her, but Megan really, I don't think has had a big win.
Yeah. No, but she has much
opponents she's lost.
Yeah, but she's had much more experience. Like Felicia Spencer had less than 10 fights, I think, coming into her fight with Amanda. It was ridiculous.
I just think it was easier to sell.
Yeah,
Felicia Spencer.
No, it was. So, but yeah, that's
fight.
Who?
Spencer and Megan Anderson. I feel like they fought.
Maybe an Invicta. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look that up. But either way, look that up, see what happened about that. Let's move on. Mr. Rockhold, Luke Rockhold says he's coming back. He said he retired last year after he got his jaw broken by Jan Blachowicz, speaking of the devil. But he said, and I'm quoting him here verbatim, "The world's bleeping boring. I need something more exciting." Kind of really comes down to that. Options are limited, and I do miss fighting.
Yeah, real quick, Felicia Spencer choked out Megan Anderson before her Cyborg fight, so there was that. But yeah, Rockhold, I mean, it's funny that he's saying the world's so fucking boring because he's fucking boring. Like, have you ever heard that guy do an interview? He's awful, dude. Bisping had to carry him and off of 2 weeks' notice to get that fucking fight selling.
We've always said nobody loves Rockhold more than Luke Rockhold.
Oh god, I mean, what Jan Blachowicz did to him was just poetic justice.
Yeah,
he came up to 205, thought he was just going to run shit. He didn't give Jan his credit that he's been up there. He's won some fights. He's a dangerous dude. He just made him sound like he was some fucking run-of-the-mill dude that shouldn't even be ranked. And he got fucking slept.
Yes, he did. Nasty, too.
Yeah.
He says he's going back to middleweight, which when you get knocked out like that at light heavyweight, and then you're talking about cutting weight again, because he cuts a lot of weight. He's like 6'4", fighting at 185 pounds. That's a lot of weight, buddy. There's some heavy hitters in that middleweight division. Do you really want to go back down there and fight again? Like when you're drained?
It's like, I can't believe he said that he missed fighting. It's like, dude, you missed going to the hospital?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is like, is that quote even very convincing? The world's bleeping boring. I need some more excitement. Like, does that even sound? That just tells me he has nothing else to do.
Like, I can just hear his voice saying it, and I'm just bored listening to him talk about how bored he is.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, that's not a quote that sounds like, man, the fire's reignited in me. Like,
exactly.
I gotta try to get back out on top. He's like, I didn't like the way I went out. That's just like, I need something to do.
Yeah, even his
paycheck.
Pretty much. I mean, even his final quote coming out of that interview was something like, "I'm still the best guy in the gym." Like, that's not very convincing.
You're the best guy in the gym because you guys aren't fucking trying to kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
You guys aren't actually fighting. If DC fucking hit you, dude, you'd be done.
Yeah. So
if Khabib hit you with an overhand, if Khabib closed this, if they hit him with an overhand, he would put him out.
That would actually be pretty. That'd be pretty damn fun to watch. Luke Rockhold wrestle or do a grappling match against him.
They said that he's ragdolled Rockhold.
Yeah, well, I know, and that's why I want to see that. I want to on chael submission underground on Sundays. I want to see that.
DC said Khabib fucking gave him some trouble wrestling.
Khabib's a monster, dude. He's an absolute monster. But
I said that guy. Well, we won't get into it because we'll just get sidetracked.
Yeah, but Rockhold's coming back. We'll see. He doesn't have a timeline. He's still cleaning up some of those injuries.
He should fight Weidman, man. They should fight each other
for a fourth time, 100th time,
second time.
Huh?
They've only fought once.
They fought twice, didn't they?
No, they fought. They were scheduled to fight a second time, and that's when Bisping stepped up because Weidman got hurt.
Oh, yeah, they'd be perfect for each other. Two guys that just can't find their rhythm back in the fight game. Yeah, absolutely.
Two former champions, fucking
yeah. That goes to show how much I watch Luke Rockhold, or Chris Weidman for that matter. But anyways, moving on. So the UFC, apparently they're doing very well. Reason I say that is we've talked, the big talk since the COVID situation is now that, they have the Apex Center. They spent like $100 million on this facility. They built this thing out. That's some insane money that they dropped. Well, guess what? They're not done building, baby. And they're not done building in Las Vegas. They're building a hotel. They just bought 10 acres in Las Vegas, and they're building a hotel there now for the fighters, at least for the short term, while COVID situation is going on. This is wild. There's not too much information out there yet. White just kind of said this nonchalantly in an interview. He's like, you guys will find out anyways. We're building a hotel right now. It's just going to be for the fighters. It's going to be self-sustaining. So that way there's no outside influence. It's a bubble for these guys, which is, I think it's awesome. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, what's the underlying issue there? They clearly are making a ton of freaking money, and the fighters aren't seeing it.
We just talked about a month ago about how their parent company is going bankrupt.
Yep. Yeah, they just moved down in credit rating with the Better Business Bureau, I think down to like a CCC plus or something like that, or maybe even a minus, but it's not good. Like it's because they've taken on so much debt. The only saving grace that they have is the UFC. I guess the company was doing pretty well, but obviously when you're a sports venue and you do live events and all that stuff, that's greatly impacted by COVID. But the UFC is still bringing in a lot of money. They're proving that they can still be equitable right now, even during the situation
too. So, and they did it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody's gotten sick on, actually at the venue. They've caught them coming in sick, and then they sent them home before they could contaminate anybody else.
Yeah. So, what are the chances that they make a big venue there in the same style as MGM?
I don't think they need that.
No? Because I've heard some people say, I've never personally been there, obviously, but I've heard some people say that MGM looks a little old. It feels a little old. You don't think that the UFC...
I'm sure it's been around forever.
Yeah, so you don't think the UFC would take this opportunity, building their own hotel, to smack in a brand spanking new ring or a MMA ring in there?
Maybe once all the COVID stuff's over, maybe they, that's what they look to. Maybe they don't do the hotel necessarily maybe for the fighters, but for the fans. So they're like, hey, come down to the lobby. Your fight's ready.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, right now, I think that's great that they're building it for the fighters, and that the fighters are going to get their own place. They're going to know where they can go. You know what I mean? That's in the long term, that's going to save the UFC money. They'll have people staying at their hotel. They have They can control the environment for the time being because we don't know how long the whole COVID situation is going to go on. So I think that's fantastic in that regard. And I'm excited for what the long-term implication of them building their own hotel is going to be. The UFC hotel, that's going to be insane. Like, I kind of hope that it's a big venue that's almost in the style that they could hold pay-per-view events there. That would be amazing.
I don't think they do that because I think they got the T-Mobile arena, so I don't know. Well, I guess we'll have to find out. 10 acres, that's a chunk of land.
Yeah, well, because here's the other thing you got to think about too is they work with other organizations. They work with other MMA organizations. They work with Roy Jones Boxing, so they can charge other organizations to hold events there. They can have boxing, they can have MMA, they can have all these other events in their hotel. That's another source of revenue that you're opening yourself up to, is not just having guests at your hotel in your high rise, but also potentially having events there too. And now that I'm talking about it out loud, you're saving money because now you're not having to rent out the T-Mobile arena every time you're there. You're not having to rent out MGM. You have it at your venue. You're saving a ton of money.
Yeah, maybe that's what they do. I don't know.
Yeah. Again, there's like no information. Dana White just, he lets it slip. He was just like, you know what, you guys are going to find out. Yeah, he is.
Bottom line, and then he's like, well, you'll find out more as we get more ahead.
Yeah. Hey, the guy's entertaining, not to say the least. Not necessarily the biggest fan of him all the time, but he keeps the information rolling.
He finds a way to keep the sport going forward.
That's for sure. So that'll be exciting. It'll be fun to see where that's going with the UFC hotel. So we'll see what other news comes out. So we have, as I kind of teased at the top of the show, we have a GOAT that signed up for his last fight. Mm-hmm. Anderson Silva is set to fight Uriah Hall on Halloween, nonetheless. Because if you remember, before 2020 started, this was supposed to be the greatest year ever because all the holidays fell on a weekend. Yeah, remember that? Just kidding. So Anderson Silva's fighting Uriah Hall. They've been pretty open. Dana White said, yes, this is his last fight, and then he's going to retire. Anderson Silva said, hey, you know what? Picture perfect story. I go and I get the title again, but that's not likely to happen. So, this is likely to be my last fight.
Yeah, it's been a long, great career for him, and it's a great opponent for him to go out with too, because it's not a guy that's going to wrestle him. He's going to throw some fancy shit, kind of like the Adesanya fight. Mm-hmm. I don't think it'll be high paced, ton of shit thrown, but I think it's going to be one of those ones where they do throw. It's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, because Uriah Hall is very exciting too. He never lived up to his potential, but he's very athletic. He's very explosive. He takes his time. He has a great jab. He has great power in his right hand. So it should be a fun fight. I'm kind of hoping that it just, it doesn't turn into a Yoel Romero versus Adesanya 1, we'll call it. But it's going to be sad to see him go out. The interesting thing, I think, is that I believe he still does have one more fight on his contract after the Uriah Hall fight. So I don't know if he's saying I'll retire after this fight and then kind of leaving that up in the air in case he can get the Conor McGregor fight, or can get some kind of GSP super fight or something like that. So maybe that's why he's leaving it open. But I'm pretty sure he does have one more fight left on his contract even after this upcoming.
Yeah, maybe he just figures, I can't fight actively. I'm constantly getting hurt. I'm in my 40s. I don't necessarily need the money that bad. So, maybe because he seems like a guy who's been doing it just because he likes to do it. It was his passion.
He's been fighting as a pro since 1998.
It's a long time, man. That is a long time.
1998. That seems like forever ago now. That's a long time to be fighting, to your point. So I'm excited to see the GOAT. To me, he's my GOAT. Like, I'm excited to see him go in there one more time. He hasn't won a fight since, 2015, I think, when he beat Brunson. Well, that fight isn't technically his last win. Yeah, he beat Brunson. Well, that's what I'm saying. Since he beat Brunson, the Nick Diaz fight was technically a win for him, but that got overturned because of the substances afterwards. So we'd like to see him go out, maybe with the knockout too. So we can only hope. Moving on. Speaking of retirement, another longtime fighter, Diego Sanchez, is saying his next fight's going to be his last. Long overdue, man.
That's very long overdue.
very long.
He's been through wars.
Yeah, so this guy has not looked the same for years.
Or sounded the same.
He's the picture of CTE, man.
He's been a meme for some number of years now.
Yeah, so he's just made weird choices, weird questionable statements and stuff like that. He doesn't seem like he's all there anymore. So we're really hoping that. I've been hoping for a long time. I was never his biggest fan, but at the same time, like, it's almost sad watching him fight sometimes. And I'm like, man, I just want to see this guy retire. I don't want to see anybody take that kind of punishment. That's impacting him long term. So hopefully he's got one more fight. Hopefully that goes well, and then he rides off into the sunset with his crazy antics, and has a good retirement. Hopefully too. He's been in the UFC for a long time, for forever. So. I think we have just a few other little items before we get going here. GSP still talking about the Khabib fight. I don't even know if it's going to happen at this point. GSP is so back and forth. 1 month it sounds like he's on it. This month he's like, I don't know, I'm too old. That weight cut is going to be too much for me. To me, it's like, if you really want that fight, I'm almost willing to bet Khabib would go up to fight him. You know what I mean? Like,
Khabib, I think Khabib respects him enough that he wants to challenge himself in that fight.
And he doesn't have to cut weight.
Yeah.
You know, he's been that more active person. So now it's just take out the fact that you have to cut weight. So I don't know. GSP's back and forth. He's saying that he doesn't think it's going to happen. So that's disappointing to hear. But
of course, that comes after Dana's was the last one to talk about it, saying, yeah, we would, for Khabib and for George, we'd talk about it. I can't guarantee you that we do it, but we talk about it.
Yeah. So I don't know. And actually, the one thing I did like about that interview is GSP was poking at the UFC a little bit. He was like, I ran away with their 170 belt. I ran away with their 185 belt. I don't think they want me running away with their 155 belt too. I was like, man,
you're probably right.
Yeah. So, and then another good announcement. Dana White was saying Ferguson versus Poirier is likely to co-headline.
Great fight.
To co-headline against in the Justin and Khabib fight. So you have two
winners in the title picture, man.
That would be exciting, man. How would you like that one? Poirier versus Ferguson.
That's a barn burner, dude.
That one's going to be fun, man.
Poirier showed that he can go fucking hard for 5 rounds, too. And he throws heat.
Yes, he does. He's accurate. He's strong. And we have to see where Ferguson comes.
His chin has held up really well, too, at lightweight. He was very chinny at featherweight, but it's held very strong.
Yeah. To that point earlier I made, he might have been one of those guys that was just cutting too much weight and it wasn't transitioning very well.
So. I mean, him and Gaethje went into a firefight, and he outlasted Gaethje.
Yeah. So that's going to be wild. Not to mention, considering that those fights are going to be back-to-back. You're sitting there on a Saturday night. You're watching Ferguson versus Poirier and then Justin versus Khabib.
They only got 15 minutes instead of 25, and they can just fucking cut loose right from the start.
I love it, man. I hope if they make that, that's going to be the New Year's event, I think. That's going to be the headliner for the New Year's event. I hope.
What do you mean?
For because they always have a big end of year card, New Year's card.
They said it's going to be the co-headliner for Gaethje and Khabib, right?
Oh, that's wait,
that's October.
Oh, that's October. I forgot about that. Oh,
boop.
Never mind.
2 months away.
Yep, forget about it. I didn't even mean to say that.
I was like, what do you mean?
What do you mean by that, Ryan? We're just going to pretend I didn't say that. No, I forgot that it was that soon, honestly. I forgot that they had already put a date on that. All right, so then even better. It's going to be right there in October. Shit. That'd be wild, man. That'd be wild. I don't know. I wonder if Ferguson's ready to go, though, because I heard that he needed obviously his suspension period from the last fight is over, but I wonder if he's going to be ready to go just with his health in general.
Research would be really fucking fast. So let's see.
Yeah. Well, because he was saying too, after that last title fight, he was saying that he was exhausted from the back-to-back fights, the back-to-back training camps, that he never really got to properly heal. So I wonder if Ferguson's actually going to be in good shape coming in into this Poirier fight.
Well, in his last fight, he was stupid and he fucking cut weight when he didn't have to. When the fight was off.
Yeah. That was pretty funny. But
it's funny, but it's like, why would you do that?
Because it's Tony Ferguson.
Yeah,
because it's Tony Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson thing to do.
Yeah. All right, so that one should be good. And then that's pretty much it as far as like any of the hot news and notes that I had for you
I
guys
think I'm
for
losing
this
you.
week. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
My check 1 2. We're back. Okay. So the UFC we were talking about, we have a bunch of free fights. I think all the way up until late September, we have a free fight card every weekend. Starting this weekend, actually, this weekend's quietly has a good card on
Dude,
it.
you got Robbie Lawler versus Neil Magny.
That one's going to be fun. Anthony Smith versus Rakic as the headliner. Alexa Grasso, Ricardo Lamas is fighting on here, and then you have the rematch between Ankalaev versus Kutalaba that got scrapped a few weeks ago because Kutalaba tested positive for COVID. That's a quick turnaround, actually. I didn't believe that when I saw that on there. I was like, "There's no way they're having that fight already."
Maybe it was a false positive.
Yeah. So either way, this is actually going to be a good card. Like last weekend's card, even though it turned out to be great, there wasn't like a lot of big names on it. This is actually a pretty good card considering. So we have a lot of stuff coming up. Then you have Overeem versus Augusto Sakai next weekend. I think that's big. Santos versus Glover Teixeira, as we alluded to. And then we have the one I have mixed feelings about, Covington versus Woodley. I don't know.
I'll probably watch it, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, our next pay-per-view is not until September 26th. So we're only going to have update shows really up through most of September too.
Next month, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty wild. But that's pretty much it. Anything else from your side, Sean?
No, not really.
Cool. Well, everybody, thank you for joining our show today. We covered a lot of stuff. Remember to check us out on our social media platforms on Instagram at the.casualsmma. We're on Twitter and we're on Facebook at the Casuals MMA. We update, give you all the hot news and notes around the UFC. So give us a follow, check us out, like our page if you want to keep listening to us on Twitch and YouTube. We also air on there live. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.